Hello, my name's Karen and today we're going to do something pretty cool. We're going to see if we can make an egg bounce. Yeah, and a bouncing egg. It's not normally something I would recommend. Eggs, well they're pretty fragile, and if we drop them, well they'll tend to break and spill all over the place. When a bird lays an egg, they want to protect their chick inside, so they lay an egg with a protective shell. So if it rolls maybe out of the nest or it's sat on, it's a little bit safer. However, as we all know, it's quite easy to break the egg as this shell, it's not very thick at all. But there is something that we can do to remove the shell completely. Not something a bird would really want to do. I'm going to show you how we can remove this shell, and afterwards I'll explain what we've actually done and what's happening. If you want to do this, you're going to need an egg, something to pop the egg in, some vinegar, and quite a bit of patience because it takes about 2 days for this to happen. First of all, you need to take your egg. It needs to be a fresh egg, not one that you've hard boiled. That'll spoil the fun. Okay. Pop the egg into the container. So I'm using a glass here because then we can see it. I'm just going to place it really carefully at the bottom so I don't break the egg. Okay. And then I'm going to completely cover it with my vinegar. Now I've just poured my vinegar into this jug here just to make it a bit easier for me. I want to make sure that my egg is completely covered with the vinegar. So I'm pouring it over, and it does tend to float the egg once it starts happening. So I'm going to make sure there's just a little bit more than I probably need there. You can use brown vinegar or clear vinegar, it doesn't matter, it still works the same. You're then going to need to leave it somewhere safe. It smells a little of vinegar, so make sure the adults in your house are happy that where you're going to leave it. You'll need to leave it for at least 24 hours, that's a whole day. It might even take 2 whole days. After a day, if you go and check it, have a look, maybe give it a bit of a wiggle around in the glass and the vinegar to make sure it's still completely covered, because if the egg starts to float, there might be a bit poking out of the vinegar at the top, so just give it a bit of a move around. You can maybe use a spoon to just spin it round. Okay. While you're waiting, you might want to look at different bird eggs. There's some really fascinating eggs out there, and different birds all lay different eggs. From a tiny wren, which lays an egg really small, to an ostrich egg. And it's really nice to have a look at, you know, a kiwi, which is only about 30 centimetres tall, the kiwi bird, not the fruit, and an ostrich, which is about 2 metres tall. They both lay an egg the same size. Which is that poor kiwi laying an egg that's about this size compared to an ostrich, which is obviously a much bigger bird. After 2 days, you want to come along and you're going to remove the egg from the vinegar. Now, I've done this before, so obviously I'm not going to be able to do this egg. This was one I set up a couple of days ago, so let me get my one. And you can probably see, if I bring it very close to the camera, that the egg looks a little bit different and there's some things floating in my vinegar. And as you can see there, if I bring it really close, you can actually see something quite brown that's floating off the top of the egg. And that's actually the shell. So I'm going to fish it out. I'm going to use my spoon to just get in there because I don't really want vinegary fingers. So I'm going to bring it out and I'm going to place it on a bit of kitchen roll that I've got here. Now you need to be quite gentle with this, just move it so you can see it in the camera, because it is still quite fragile, even though I'm saying that we're hopefully going to be able to bounce this egg. So I just give it a bit of a rub, and what I can see, if I bring it close again to the camera, is I'm able to rub off all of the leftover bits of shell, and my egg is actually becoming quite see-through. Just continue to rub it a little bit more. You will get vinegary fingers here, but you can wash them and that should take the smell off. Okay. So hopefully you can see here, I've got an egg, and if I just squeeze it really gently, you can see it's quite rubbery. It feels completely different to the egg that I popped into the vinegar, and it looks quite see-through. Now, this is the amazing bit. I'm going to try and drop my egg. I'm not going to drop it very far. If I dropped it to the floor, I might have a bit of an accident, but I'm just going to drop it onto the table, and I want you to see what happens. Look at that. The egg bounced. It's really rubbery and it bounces. So we've taken a normal egg, an egg that you would eat for breakfast maybe, for your scrambled egg. We've removed the shell and made it a bouncing egg. And just to prove that I didn't hard boil this egg before, because I know obviously if we'd have hard boiled it, you can bounce it, I'm going to cut it open. So I'm actually going to just move my camera so you can really see very clearly what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to take a knife, and this is just a butter knife, and I'm going to stab straight into my bouncing egg. That was quite cool. You might want to make sure you're doing this somewhere where it doesn't matter if it's spilled. But you can see here, the egg white is still very liquidy, the yolk is very liquidy, so it was just a normal egg. And we've got a little bit of, this is the egg membrane, and that was what was keeping all of the insides of the egg in one piece, so that we were able to bounce it. Because once we'd removed the shell, there wasn't that protective layer, but this membrane that is inside the shell it wasn't removed, so that was keeping all of that egg, all the liquidy parts of the egg, nice and safe inside, which meant that we could bounce it. So what happened? What was the science behind what we've just done? Well, an eggshell is made from calcium. Calcium is the same things that our bones in our body are made from, and our teeth. The vinegar that we used is an acid. Now, when an acid comes into contact with calcium, it actually dissolves. It breaks down that calcium. And that's what happened with our eggshell. When we put the egg into the vinegar, it dissolved that calcium outside layer, the hard shell. Now, it didn't dissolve the membrane of the egg because that is not made from calcium. And that membrane kept all those liquidy parts of the egg in one piece. You saw, however, how easy it was for me to stab through that membrane. So when a bird lays an egg, it needs to put that hard outside layer on because the membrane just would not be strong enough if it got sat on or it rolled out of the nest. We can do this investigation when we're looking at our teeth and how dentists help us to protect our teeth by giving us toothpaste and toothbrushes to make sure that any acid that gets onto our teeth from things that we might eat is kept away and protects the outside layer, because we wouldn't want our teeth to be broken down by anything that we're eating. It's also a fun one to do because you could say to people at home, I'm going to make an egg bounce, and they probably wouldn't believe you because eggs generally, when we drop them, they don't bounce. But you can show them with a little bit of science that actually, yes, we can make an egg bounce. I hope you've enjoyed watching this and that you've had a go at home. If you do, please let us know what happened and tell us how it went.